Let me ask about the FBI. How long do you intend to put up with that Kash Patel character? Are you good with his airplane jaunts? Are you confident he's not drinking on the job? Are you sure none of his travel is a pretext for vacation activities like snorkeling, Olympics, and visiting girlfriends? Are you sure he knows what he's doing? Do you vouch for him? Are you willing to look at whether he lied to this committee?
That's an extraordinarily obnoxious question, Senator, and I have full faith in Director Patel and the work that he's doing every day.
Great, you get to own that.
Those allegations against Patel come from whistleblowers who spoke to the Atlantic magazine. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse joins us now. Senator, you're clearly not in support of Todd Blanche for Attorney General. What are the biggest concerns you have about Blanche after day one of this hearing?
Well, the record of misconduct and incompetence of the Department of Justice in this administration is truly unprecedented in the history of the Republic. You have judges of every political disposition condemning the arguments and the presentations made by this Department of Justice. You have contempt inquiries ongoing. You have the worst possible inquiry, fraud on the court. That inquiry is pending in Florida based on the collusion that the judge found around the slush fund deal. And Blanche is in that up to his neck, to the extent that the judge in that case referred her decision to state bar officials in New York. And she left open the prospect that there was a fraud on the court. Bad enough, she found bad faith and misconduct and violation of DOJ policies and violation of the duties of DOJ attorneys to zealously advocate for the United States. That is a series of bombshells in federal court, unprecedented and really appalling. And he needs to answer for that. It's not just the question of the slush fund. It's the question of the legal manipulation and mischief that has been called out by a federal judge that led to the creation of the slush fund.
Do you believe Blanche, as Attorney General, would have a real intention to help Trump carry out his desires? Or do you think Blanche is simply too close to the president to operate without bias?
Something has broken in him from his days as a regular, normal federal prosecutor. I don't know when or how it happened, but right now his capacity to push back on bad commands, bad directives coming from the White House seems to be about zero, and he himself engages in misconduct in order to accomplish those purposes. So it's not just letting it go by, he's actually affirmatively committing wrongful acts as acting Attorney General of the United States, to the extent that he's now under court inquiry for fraud on the court and subject to review by the State Bar of New York.
The hearing's going to resume tomorrow. What are you hearing from your Republican colleagues on the committee? Do you think any of them will actually vote to block Blanche's nomination?
I think, as you mentioned earlier in the program, there's some of them that are up in the air. There are also, I think, people who are watching this on the floor who are not members of the Judiciary Committee, but are Republicans who are skeptical about this. And I think every Republican senator up for re-election in November or wanting to stay in the majority in November needs to consider how much baggage Blanche is going to dump on them if they vote to confirm him. The record from his appointment as acting Attorney General and Deputy Attorney General until now is terrible. And if that continues, there will be more scandal, more disgrace, more baggage for them to have to explain having voted for him a second time.
What did you make of his answer to you about Kash Patel when he called it an obnoxious question?
Well, he obviously didn't want to answer it. It's very Trumpy when you don't want to answer a question to push back and try to pick a fight. They love that over at the Oval Office. But the fact of the matter, as you pointed out, is that every single one of those statements that I made about Kash Patel's behavior is corroborated by public reporting. And the fact that he's okay with all of that, the crazy plane flights, the chasing the girlfriend around with the public aircraft, the guzzling beers at the Olympics, the snorkeling trips, the whole mess of Cash Patel. If he wants to own that, that's his business. Now that's 2 sets of baggage that he has to carry between now and November.